So my name is Jay Brown. I've been with CNN and affiliate companies for 20 years now. I've been, in all of my roles at the company, one of my biggest focuses this whole time has been helping the CNN library digitize and preserve their enormous news footage archive that goes back 40 plus years to when CNN was founded. I also want to shout out to my colleague Harry Schaefer, who's our enterprise architect on this project. All right, so I'm going to start by throwing some numbers at you. I just want to give you an idea of what the scope and scale and magnitude of this is. So the CNN video library, what we're talking about is the actual broadcast quality footage that we've recorded for and edited for all of, major news events for the last 40 years. So this is our SD and HD, our legacy SD and our current HD house format for broadcast. So these are enormous files by many standards. We're always adding more to it. This archive grows 5 terabytes a day, every day. Hundreds of hours of video are added to it every day. And how it's used is it's not just video sitting around that occasionally gets access for some special project. This is content that's recalled and restored on a daily basis, and we're restoring hundreds of files a day. The interesting thing is our access pattern. So currently, on average, 25% of the content that we restore on a daily basis is 90 days old or newer. Well, another 25% of it is 5 years old or older. And of course, everything else is somewhere in the middle. So we have a vast archive of content, and we're recalling hundreds of files a day back from the millions of files that we have, but which ones we're going to need on a particular day, we don't know. And the challenge is that our SLA to the business for restoring these files to get them to air or for edit is measured in minutes. So where we were and where we've been with all of this, we actually built our first digital archive on premises in 2005, and we've continued to operate it since then. It's a centralized on-premises storage in a single location. We have backup media that we keep off-site across town on a shelf somewhere. This system serves CNN worldwide and thousands of users on a daily and weekly basis. One of the things we realized was that we had set this up and it was working and everything was great, but we had no real DR plan. And that became very real for us in 2008 when a tornado rolled right through downtown Atlanta and actually took out some windows in the building just a few steps away from the data center with windows that houses our tape robots. So it was a close call in 2008. So we had to get on that. So eventually, as we were trying to work out business continuity solutions for this, we felt that cloud-based solutions were advanced enough, and we hadn't really had any success justifying another on-premises system as a backup. So where we thought we were going when we started this project was a cloud archive as a backup and a business continuity solution for the business, which would kind of initiate a gradual move to the cloud, but we would still continue operating our on-premises storage, and with an idea that at some point in the future, maybe the cloud would become primary storage, once we were able to coax the business into getting comfortable with the idea. Well, that was the original plan, and then A few years ago, they came to us and said, hey, we're thinking about selling the building. It's going to be a while. Do you think at some point you could make the cloud the primary storage for the system? And we were like, yeah. We had been working with Amazon and S3 long enough that we felt very comfortable that at some point in the future we could make that work. Well, then a few months later they came back to us and they said, well, we've sold the building and we have to be out by the middle of 2024, so you need to make this work. So we had to do a big pivot. So where we needed to go was the cloud archive as the primary storage as well as a backup solution, and an immediate move to the cloud. And even more urgently, a move to the cloud before our current storage filled up because they weren't going to buy us anymore. And so we had to make cloud work as the primary storage now and support our full production workflows and workloads with it in the time frame we had before we had to get out of the building. So this presented us with a number of challenges. We had over 26 petabytes of legacy content stored on premises that we had to migrate to the cloud, as well as keeping up with the daily 5 terabytes. And we had to do this without impacting production, of course. So what we ended up with is a multi-region strategy, and we're using two different tiers in our strategy, and we have our content split across the 2 regions. We don't have 2 copies. We don't have well, I have a picture that'll help describe it a little bit better, but we have copies in 2 regions. We have a primary and a secondary copy, and we're leveraging cross-region replication to make that happen. As far as our tiers that we selected, Glacier Deep Archive was an obvious choice for our secondary or our backup storage. And initially we started using Glacier Flexible Retrieve for our primary storage. And we had already done a lot of work to get ready for that and to make that work. And we had already started putting some content in the cloud when our AWS folks told us, hey, we've got this new tier, it's called Glacier Instant Retrieve. And it sounded too good to be true when they were describing it. And based on our access patterns, and the fact that pretty much every retrieve we would be doing would be an expedited thaw, when we sat down and looked at it and ran the numbers, the cost difference for our access patterns and use cases was kind of hard to tell what was the difference. So switching to Glacier Instant Retrieve for our primary tier was an absolute no-brainer and a real game changer in terms of our confidence in being able to meet the demands of the business. So this is just a architecture diagram to prove that we actually did something, but you can see we've got 10 buckets, 5 primary buckets in each region, and then the backup copy for each object is in the opposite region. And now that we have all of our content in the cloud, in S3, we're also able to leverage, it gives us an opportunity to leverage the other media-centric products and services that Amazon has. And so one of the main ones we're already making use of heavily is AWS Media Convert for transcoding content. Some of our older content, we have to transcode it on the restore in order to have it in a format that the editors can work with. And so it was very seamless to integrate that service into our process. So where we are today is we've stopped writing content to our on-premises library. So we stopped writing in October with maybe a month or two to spare in terms of how much actual storage we had left on premises. So we did it, we made it, and we're now archiving exclusively to the cloud. We've migrated. When I made this slide several weeks ago, I wasn't quite sure where we'd be today, and I wanted to be conservative, so I said, well, surely we'll at least be 80% complete. So I didn't want to overestimate because I didn't want to jinx us, but we're actually 90% complete in migrating our 26 petabytes to the cloud. So as a result, we're in the process of decommissioning planning for the decommissioning of this on-premises hardware ahead of our move out, instead of having to plan for, yet another media migration and yet more expansion for more hardware and more integration. And we are now supporting our complete production workload and meeting our SLA from S3 and Glacier.